Do you think you know Pope Francis? Get ready to be surprised. Today, I'm going to reveal some interesting facts that are so different and incredible that, in the end, you'll see him in a completely new way. Comment below which one shocked you the most. 1. The first Pope from the Americas. Pope Francis was born in Argentina, becoming the first pontiff from the American continent in the entire history of the Church. This was a huge milestone for global representation. His election broke centuries of European tradition, and it gave the Catholic world a new cultural perspective. 2. The very first Jesuit on the throne of Peter. Before Francis, no pope had come from the Society of Jesus. The Jesuits are known for their dedication to education, science, and social justice. Francis brought this same practical and compassionate vision to the Vatican, and it was evident in many of his most important decisions. 3. A pope with a name inspired by Francis of Assisi. When elected, Jorge Mario Bergoglio chose the name Francis. He was inspired by Saint Francis of Assisi, the saint of the poor and of peace. His desire was clear: he wanted a church focused on those most in need. And this gesture already showed what the hallmark of his papacy would be. 4. Simple life, even in the Vatican. Unlike most previous popes, Francis refused to live in the luxurious papal apartments. He preferred to live in the Casa Santa Marta, a more modest space within the Vatican. For him, comfort should not distance him from people. Humility became his calling card. 5. Passionate football fan. Francisco is a staunch supporter of the Argentine team San Lorenzo. When he was young, he would go to their games with his friends. His love for football is still well known today, and he has received jerseys from clubs all over the world. For him, the sport is also a way to bring people together. 6. Love for tango. Born in Buenos Aires, Francisco grew up listening to and dancing tango. He has confessed that, in his youth, he loved to dance. Even as Pope, he still carries in his heart the musicality and culture of his homeland. Popular art has always had a special place in his life. 7. He worked as a nightclub bouncer. Before pursuing his religious vocation, Francisco worked in various jobs, including as a nightclub bouncer. This life experience gave him a realistic view of the challenges faced by ordinary people. It further strengthened his social empathy. 8. Had part of a lung removed. As a teenager, Francisco suffered a very serious respiratory infection. As a result, he had to have part of one of his lungs removed. Despite this, he always had an impressive energy. This overcoming of obstacles shaped his spirit of resilience. 9. Cook like a professional chef. Francisco learned to cook early to help his mother. Even after becoming a cardinal, he liked to prepare his own simple meals. In the Vatican, they say that even today, he sometimes likes to give his opinion on the recipes at Casa Santa Marta. 10. Do not use a computer or cell phone in person. Despite his highly connected papacy, Francis prefers traditional methods. He writes letters by hand and reads printed documents. His aides manage his social media, but he himself is averse to technology, a detail that reinforces his low profile. 11. A pope active on social media. Although he himself does not use a cell phone, Pope Francis is extremely active on social media. His Twitter account, @Pontifex, is translated into several languages and reaches millions of people. His messages are short but powerful, always reflecting on faith, hope and love. 12. Washed the feet of prisoners. Francis moved the world by washing the feet of prisoners, including women and Muslims, during his first Holy Week as Pope. This gesture represented extreme humility and the true practice of Jesus' teachings. The message was clear: everyone is worthy of love and respect. 13. Great defender of ecology. In 2015, he published the encyclical Laudato Si', advocating environmental protection. Francis drew global attention to the climate crisis and the responsibility to care for the planet. He became a strong voice for sustainability among religious and political leaders. 14. First Pope to visit the Arabian Peninsula. In 2019, Francis made a historic feat by visiting the United Arab Emirates. It was the first visit by a pope to the Arabian Peninsula, and the aim was to promote interfaith dialogue and respect between Christians and Muslims. 15. Pope of surprise visits. Known for his spontaneity, Francis loves to make unannounced visits. He has made surprise appearances at homeless shelters, hospitals, and charities. These simple but profound gestures bring the Pope even closer to the people. (16) Vatican reformer. From the beginning of his pontificate, Francis initiated profound reforms in the Vatican administration. He fought privileges, fought corruption, and made finances more transparent. It was a difficult change, but necessary for the modernization of the Church. 17. First Latin American Pope. He was not only the first Argentine Pope, but the first from the entire Latin American continent. This election represented the growing importance of Latin America within the Catholic Church, which today accounts for almost 40% of the world's Catholics. 18. Great admirer of Dostoevsky. Francis loves literature, especially Russian classics. One of his favorite authors is Fyodor Dostoevsky, whom he often quotes in his speeches. He finds the spiritual depth of the author's works deeply inspiring. 19. Openness to scientific dialogue. Unlike many conservative religious leaders, Francis has actively promoted dialogue between faith and science. He argues, for example, that the Big Bang and evolution are not incompatible with the Christian faith. 20. He carries a simple iron cross. Instead of a golden or jewel-studded cross, Francis wears a simple iron cross. This detail symbolizes his humility and his desire to always be close to the poor and the suffering. 21. Has a common friendship with a rabbi. Since his time as Archbishop in Buenos Aires, Francis has maintained a deep friendship with Rabbi Abraham Skorka. Together, they write about faith, friendship, and interreligious dialogue, breaking down historical barriers. 22. Popular culture lover. Francis is interested in popular culture and believes that it can be a path to evangelization. He has mentioned characters from films and songs in his homilies, showing that faith does not need to be distant from everyday life. 23. First Pope to create a World Day of the Poor. Francis instituted the World Day of the Poor to reinforce the Church's mission to serve those most in need. Every year, he promotes solidarity actions that benefit thousands of people around the world. 24. A Pope who respects doubt. On several occasions, Francis has stated that doubt is part of true faith. For him, those who never doubt do not mature spiritually. This welcoming approach has especially touched young people and people in a crisis of faith. 25. Chose the name Francisco in seconds. When asked if he would accept being Pope, he quickly answered yes. He then declared that he wanted to be called Francis, without hesitation, as an immediate tribute to the simplicity of Saint Francis of Assisi. 26. Promoted the canonization of Oscar Romero. Francis has canonized Archbishop Oscar Romero, who was assassinated for defending the poor in El Salvador. For him, social justice and faith are deeply intertwined, and canonizing Romero was a courageous gesture. 27. First Pope to appear in a Netflix documentary. Francisco was the protagonist in the documentary Pope Francis, a Man of His Word, available on Netflix. In it, he speaks directly to the camera, sharing his views on faith, humanity, and the future. 28. Pope of simple gestures. Instead of long, solemn speeches, Francis prefers small, concrete gestures, such as giving rides to workers, serving meals to the homeless, or personally blessing children on the streets. 29. A pope without limousines. Unlike his predecessors, Francis has shunned the use of luxury cars. He has chosen to ride in simple cars, such as the Fiat 500, reinforcing his message of humility and accessibility. 30. First pope to visit a refugee camp. During the European migration crisis, Francis visited the Greek island of Lesbos. He took 3 Muslim refugee families to live in the Vatican, showing solidarity beyond words. 31. He refused a Erminho cloak. When he was elected, Francis was offered the traditional red cape lined with ermine fur, a symbol of papal power. He immediately refused, saying humorously, "Carnival is over." This simple gesture reinforced his choice of humility. 32. Value forgiveness above all else. Francis has always emphasized that the Church must be a field hospital for those wounded in life. For him, forgiveness is more important than judgment. His pontificate is marked by this message of constant mercy. 33. He was a chemist before becoming a priest. Few people know this, but Jorge Bergoglio trained as a chemical technician before entering the seminary. He worked in a laboratory, dealing with chemical substances. This scientific training shaped his curious and realistic view of the world. 34. Studied literature and psychology. In addition to philosophy and theology, Francisco studied literature and psychology. This broad background allows him to engage with different areas of knowledge. And it explains his accessible way of talking about faith without alienating non-religious people. 35. He was persecuted during the dictatorship. In the 1970s, as a Jesuit leader in Argentina, he faced ethical and political dilemmas during the military dictatorship. He protected and hid politically persecuted people, putting his own life at risk. 36. Great defender of ecumenism. Francis has always sought dialogue with other Christian denominations. He encourages meetings with Orthodox, Protestants, and Anglicans, breaking down barriers that have existed for centuries. His goal is to unite, not divide. 37. Classic movie lover. His favorite films include La Strada and Romeo and Juliet. He believes that cinema can convey deep human values. Whenever he can, he watches old, thought-provoking films, even in the midst of his busy schedule. 38. First pope to receive a film award. He received the International Catholic Film Award in recognition of his support for the arts and popular culture. An unexpected recognition for a religious leader. 39. Participated in dialogues with atheists. Francisco believes that the important thing is to seek the common good, regardless of belief. He has participated in public discussions with atheists and agnostics, showing respect and openness. 40. Accepted your driver's resignation. Soon after becoming pope, Francis dismissed his official driver in order to travel in a simpler and safer manner. He preferred discreet vehicles, without attracting attention, to reinforce his message of humility. 41. Strongly supports climate science. Francis doesn't just talk about ecology, he actively supports modern climate science. His Laudato Si document cites scientific data to reinforce the urgency of caring for creation. 42. Called the People's Pope. In Argentina, he was affectionately called El Papa del Pueblo, the Pope of the People. His reputation for simplicity and approachability was already known long before he arrived in Rome. 43. First pope to publicly acknowledge church errors. In several speeches, Francis has acknowledged historical errors of the Church, such as past abuses. This transparent stance has caused a great impact around the world. 44. Opened the Vatican to the homeless. He ordered the installation of showers and free medical services inside the Vatican for homeless people. He also created shelters and distributed food regularly. 45. Prefers to wear plain black shoes. While many popes have worn traditional red shoes, Francis kept his simple black shoes, the same ones he wore in Argentina. 46. He maintained his lifestyle even during the papacy. Even after he was elected, he continued to do simple things like carry his own bags. This image of a pope who was just like us conquered the world. 47. He was a shy young man. Francis was extremely shy and reserved in his youth. This introspection helped him develop deep empathy, something that is strongly reflected in his leadership today. 48. Received the Charlemagne Prize. In 2016, he won the Charlemagne Prize, an award given to those who promote European unity. The justification was his efforts to build bridges between cultures and peoples. 49. First pope to defend animals in official documents. In Laudato Si', Francis explicitly recognizes the value of animals and the environment as part of divine creation, something unprecedented in papal documents. 50. Has a famous sense of humor. Francis is known for his witty comebacks. When asked once if he accepted his role with serenity, he replied with a smile, "Your sins are no greater than mine." 51. Made confession a priority. He reinforced the importance of confession as a gesture of love and mercy, not as a punishment. He encouraged priests to be welcoming and understanding. 52. Maintained strong ties with Argentina. Despite living in the Vatican, Francis maintains a strong connection with his homeland. He often personally calls friends and acquaintances in Buenos Aires. 53. Defends the popular economy. He harshly criticizes the global economic system that excludes the poorest. He encourages solidarity economy practices and cooperatives as fair alternatives. 54. Face criticism with calmness. Francis knows that his more progressive positions generate criticism. However, he always responds calmly and prefers to build bridges rather than create confrontations. 55. Support immigrants and refugees. One of his strongest causes is the defense of the rights of migrants and refugees. He considers hospitality as a Christian duty. 56. Strengthen the role of women in the Church. Although he opposes the ordination of women, Francis has given women more visibility in leadership positions in the Vatican than any other pope before him. 57. It is against clericalism. Francis often criticizes clericalism, the elitist attitude of some members of the Church. For him, being a religious leader is about serving, not dominating. 58. Simplified the marriage annulment process. It facilitated the process of annulling marriages in the Catholic Church, making it less bureaucratic and more accessible. 59. Answered personal letters from faithful. There are reports of several ordinary people receiving personal responses from the Pope to letters they sent to the Vatican. Francis values direct human contact. 60. Supports the ethical use of artificial intelligence. In recent debates, Francis has stressed that technology, including AI, must always serve human dignity and not become an instrument of domination. 61. Participated in youth economy meetings. He promoted events such as Economia de Francisco, bringing together young economists to propose a fairer and more sustainable economic model. 62. Be careful with the elderly. Francisco always draws attention to the value of the elderly in society. For him, they are sources of wisdom and deserve respect and special attention. 63. Values listening. On many occasions, Francis has said that knowing how to listen is more important than knowing how to speak. He applies this to personal encounters and pastoral decisions. 64. he has strong health despite his age. Even at an advanced age and with part of a lung removed, Francisco maintains a busy schedule and displays contagious energy. 65. Pope of small big changes. Many of the transformations in the Vatican during his papacy began almost imperceptibly but had major long-term impacts. 66. Visits sick and vulnerable people in person. Whenever possible, Francisco makes personal visits to hospitals, nursing homes and recovery homes, bringing hope to those in need. 67. Encourages comprehensive education. Francisco advocates an education that forms the human being as a whole, mind, heart and spirit. For him, teaching content alone is not enough. 68. Knows how to communicate with young people. With his simple language, humor and direct messages, Francisco has won over a huge young audience, who see him as a welcoming figure. 69. Preserved the simple style of celebration. The masses celebrated by Francis are known for their simplicity and depth, without excessive pomp or exaggerated formalities. 70. Leave the future open. Francis always says, "The Holy Spirit surprises." He teaches that the Church must be open to new times, without fear, but with confidence and hope. C. Pope Francis goes far beyond titles and tradition. He is made of humanity, faith, and true transformation. Every curiosity is a reflection of how he touched the world in unexpected ways. If you love this kind of curiosity, leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because here, each story reveals a new world. Comment here, which of these curiosities surprised you the most? See you in the next Intruder Fact Mystery.